You feel immortal?
No. I feel lucky. Yeah, I'm immortal because I've done some pretty damn crazy stuff in my life.
I'm dying. It's a fact. There's no need for a doctor to tell me. That farewell performance was something I insisted on doing. I don't want to disappear silently. I have to say goodbye in person.
Happy birthday, dear Minnie. Happy birthday to you.
Blow out the candle. Blow. 3.
Ozzy Osbourne knew he was dying. He didn't need another diagnosis, another round of tests, or one more reminder. He felt it in his bones, in his voice, in the quiet moments no one else could see. But instead of fading away silently, he made a decision that would define his final chapter. He wanted the world to remember. Not the broken version of him confined by illness, but the man who lived loudly, loved deeply, and left nothing unsaid. His final concert wasn't just a performance, it was a farewell woven with sweat, tears, and heartache. On that stage in Birmingham, the same city where his story began, Ozzy stood one last time under the lights, fragile but fierce. Every lyric of "Mama, I'm Coming Home" carried the weight of 1,000 goodbyes. Fans cried openly, some held up signs that read, "Thank you, Ozzy." Others just stood in silent awe, witnessing the legend closing his final act. What made that night even more incredible was that every cent, nearly $190 million, was donated. Children's hospitals, Parkinson's research, a hospice foundation. It wasn't for fame, it wasn't for headlines, it was because he wanted to give something back before he was gone. Ozzy may have built his career on chaos and controversy, but this was something different. This was legacy. At home, he made sure every moment counted. His wife, Sharon, never left his side. 40 years of marriage, a history that included betrayal, heartbreak, even violence, and yet, in those last days, there was only tenderness. Sharon would often be found sitting beside him, holding his hand as they watched old movies or laughed about ridiculous memories. He once said she was the only person who truly knew him, even in his darkest hours. "Sometimes I want to kill her," he joked, "but I couldn't live without her." It was messy, complicated, raw, but real love often is. His children became his closest companions. Kelly, his daughter, was especially close to him during this time. The bond they shared was beyond words, nurtured through years of ups and downs, public scrutiny, and private healing. It was fitting then that she got engaged just after his farewell concert. Backstage, in a moment that felt like it belonged in a movie, her longtime partner Sid Wilson got down on one knee. Ozzy watched it all with tears in his eyes. He clapped, laughed, and whispered later to Sharon that it was one of the proudest moments of his life. He didn't make it to the wedding, but he was there for that.
Kelly, you know I love you more than anything in the world.
Fuck up, get up anymore doing this.
Nothing would make me happier than spend the rest of my life in front of your family and all of our friends. Kelly, will you marry me?
Then there was Jack. More than a son, he had become a friend, a confidant. They spent hours reminiscing, rewatching old family footage, and even joking about the wildest moments from the Osbournes reality show. Ozzy's voice might have cracked and his body may have failed him, but the laughter, that was still strong. His children gave him the will to keep going a little longer, and in return, he gave them closure that most families only dream of. But it wasn't just his kids. Ozzy was a grandfather to 10 grandkids, and he adored every single one. If you asked Sharon, she'd tell you he became a different man around them. Gentler, more patient, endlessly amused by the simplest things. He'd sit with them on the floor, telling wild stories, pretending to be a pirate, or singing lullabies in that same gravelly voice that once shook stadiums. And then there were the animals. Dozens of them, mostly rescues, dogs, cats, even birds. Ozzy could never say no to a creature in need. His favorite, a dog named Rocky, was by his side nearly every day until August of 2024 when Rocky passed away. It hit Ozzy like a freight train. Sharon later said it was one of the only times she saw him truly break down in those final months. That dog was his soul, she said quietly. He didn't even remember all their names half the time, but Rocky, he never forgot Rocky. Despite the love surrounding him, Ozzy fought a war inside his mind and body. The Parkinson's diagnosis had chipped away at him for years, but by 2025, it was more than just physical. It had taken a toll on his spirit. In a rare interview just a few months before his death, he confessed that depression had crept in. "You wake up and something else is wrong," he said. "You start to wonder if it's ever going to stop, if you'll ever feel normal again." But Sharon was his anchor. When he felt like slipping, she found new ways to pull him back. A new project, a reason to get up in the morning, even something as small as a walk in the garden. It wasn't all picture perfect. There were days he couldn't get out of bed, days he cursed everything, fate, the disease, his past choices. But he kept going because every second he spent with family, every time he picked up the phone to call an old friend, it made the pain worth it, and he did reconnect with people he hadn't spoken to in years, like former bandmates from Black Sabbath came to visit. Some sat quietly with him for hours, others joked like no time had passed.
What do you want to do this New Year's?
Whatever you want to do.
Just
You're the leader of our gang. You tell me and I'll do it.
I'll go wherever you want to go.
Through it all, there was music. Always music. Some days, Ozzy would just sit with his eyes closed and listen to the songs that made him famous. Other times, he'd hum old melodies under his breath or strum a few chords, even if his hands trembled. It was more than nostalgia, it was who he was. Music wasn't just what he did, it was how he survived. In the final weeks, Ozzy's home transformed into something sacred. It wasn't just a place, it was a memory factory. Every photo on the wall, every guitar on the rack, every pair of sunglasses tucked in a drawer had a story behind it. Sharon made sure the house stayed quiet when needed, but full of life when Ozzy was strong enough. Friends dropped by, grandkids ran through the halls, and sometimes, when the pain was less sharp, he'd sit in the garden with a blanket, just listening to the wind. That was peace for him. He didn't hide from his past. In fact, he embraced it. Ozzy openly acknowledged that he hadn't always been the best man. The addiction battles, the scandals, the chaos, it was all part of him. But instead of shame, he leaned into honesty. He once said, "I've been a monster, a joke, a mess, and somehow I'm still here. I must be doing something right." That brutal honesty only made people love him more. Because in a world full of fake idols, Ozzy never pretended to be perfect. And the world responded. Letters poured in, not just from celebrities or industry friends, but from everyday fans. A nurse from Ohio who said his music helped her through a divorce, a soldier in Ukraine who blasted Crazy Train before going into battle, a teenager from Brazil who swore he learned English just to understand his lyrics. Ozzy read every one that Sharon placed in front of him. Sometimes he laughed, sometimes he cried, but always he was grateful. Sharon noticed how often he'd reach for her hand. After reading something touching, she said it was like he wanted to take it all in before letting go. Their love had been tested more than most. Between fame, infidelity, addiction, and mental health battles, most couples would have fallen apart a dozen times over. But theirs survived, not because it was flawless, but because it was real. Ozzy never stopped telling her how much she meant to him, even when the words came out shaky, and she never stopped showing up. There was one moment, captured quietly by a family member, where Ozzy simply whispered, "Thank you for saving me," to Sharon while they sat watching the sun go down. No crowd, no cameras, just two people at the end of a long, complicated, beautiful journey. The pain intensified as the weeks passed. Simple things became hard, standing, eating, even speaking clearly. But Ozzy stayed stubborn. If one of the grandkids had a birthday, he was there. If a friend came to visit, he made the effort to talk. He refused to let illness steal the last good days from him. And that defiance, that refusal to let go quietly was the most rock and roll thing he ever did. When the end came, it wasn't dramatic. There were no flashing lights or breaking news alerts. He was surrounded by his family in the early hours of the morning, Sharon holding one hand, Kelly the other, his favorite Sabbath track playing softly in the background. There was no fear, no panic, just peace. His eyes closed slowly, and just like that, he was gone. The world reacted instantly. Tributes from artists, fans, politicians, even religious leaders. Streets in Birmingham were filled with people lighting candles and playing his songs from their balconies. Social media flooded with millions of stories, people sharing what Ozzy's music had meant to them. From bikers and punks to school teachers and CEOs, his reach was unimaginable. But what stood out the most weren't the grand gestures, it was the small moments. A child humming Dreamer under his breath, a tattoo artist adding angel wings to an Ozzy portrait, a couple dancing to No More Tears at their wedding. That's how you know someone made an impact, when the echoes of their life keep playing long after they're gone. And yet, even in death, Ozzy gave one final gift. Before he passed, he made arrangements to auction off much of his personal artwork, drawings, paintings, even journal pages, specifically to raise money for endangered wildlife and research into neurodegenerative diseases. Sharon revealed that he didn't want his things locked away.